When you think of luxury cars, what's one of the first names that pops into your head? For so many of us, it's Mercedes-Benz. It's a name that just screams luxury, performance, and perfect engineering, a real titan of the car world. And just how big a titan are we talking about? Well, today, the company is worth somewhere around $80 billion. It's a global symbol of status and engineering excellence. But the story of how it got here, well, it is far more complex and honestly, a lot more shocking than you might imagine. Because for every shiny image of modern luxury, there's a shadow from a pretty dark past. It's this incredible history of game-changing innovation, but also one of deep, deep moral compromise. So let's peel back the layers and start right at the very beginning. Our story kicks off with one man, Karl Benz. This is a guy who came from basically nothing, and he was driven by a single revolutionary idea that sounded completely impossible to everyone at the time: a world without horses. Karl Benz's early life was tough. I mean, really tough. He was born into poverty back in 1844, and his father, a locomotive driver, died when he was only 2 years old. But his mother saw something special in him, and she sacrificed absolutely everything to make sure he got a good education. And boy, did it pay off. He was brilliant, a total natural with mechanics, and he got obsessed with creating a horseless carriage, a vision that most people back then just laughed at. So after years and years of tinkering away, dealing with failed business partnerships, his big breakthrough finally came in 1885. He created this, the Benz patent motor wagon. It's a three-wheeled vehicle powered by a gasoline engine, and it was the world's first true automobile. But when he actually drove it in public, the reaction wasn't amazement. It was fear. People seriously thought he was driving some infernal carriage that could just explode at any moment. So the invention was a technical marvel, but nobody wanted to buy it. The business was right on the verge of collapsing. And that's when the real hero of this story steps onto the stage, Karl's wife, Bertha Benz. And you have to know, she had already used her own inheritance just to keep the company afloat. What Bertha did next is, hands down, one of the greatest marketing stunts in history. One morning, without even telling her husband, she took the motor wagon, grabbed her 2 sons, and just set off on a 66-mile journey. It was a total adventure. She had to unclog a fuel line with her hat pin, use her own garter as electrical insulation, and she even stopped at a pharmacy to buy a cleaning solvent to use as fuel, in the process basically inventing the world's first gas station. How incredible is that? That 12-hour journey was a complete sensation. It proved to the world that this new automobile wasn't just some crazy inventor's toy, but a reliable way to travel. The publicity was massive, and the company's next model, the Benz Velo, went on to sell 1,200 units, making it the world's very first mass-produced car. So, just like that, Benz was now the largest car company in the world. But you know how it is, success attracts competition. And not too far away, another brilliant engineering company was rising fast, setting the stage for a legendary rivalry. This was Daimler, or DMG, founded by Gottlieb Daimler and Wilhelm Maybach. And the two companies could not have been more different. You had Karl Benz, who was this cautious, careful engineer. He hated auto racing. He thought it was noisy and dangerous. Daimler, though, they were the total opposite. Fiercely competitive, and they saw racing as the ultimate proving ground for their cars. And that focus on racing led to a huge breakthrough. In 1901, a wealthy businessman named Emil Jelinek asked Daimler to build him a revolutionary new race car. Jelinek had just one condition. The car had to be named after his daughter, Mercedes. Well, that car, the Mercedes 35 HP, didn't just win, it absolutely dominated the racing circuit. It was so successful that Daimler decided to rebrand all of its cars under that one name. The pressure from Mercedes' racing success was just immense, and it basically forced Benz to get into racing too. But this epic rivalry was about to be cut short by history. After World War I, Germany's economy completely collapsed. Facing total ruin, these two giant competitors were forced to do the unthinkable. In 1926, they merged, creating the company we now know as Daimler-Benz. Now, this new company thrived, creating some of the absolute finest cars in the world. But as it was growing in power and prestige, Germany was heading down a very, very dark path, and Daimler-Benz would become deeply and very profitably entangled in it. When Hitler rose to power, he wanted to showcase German engineering as a symbol of superiority. So Daimler-Benz started getting massive subsidies from the government to dominate Grand Prix racing.
basically becoming a tool for Nazi propaganda. The famous Mercedes-Benz 770 became the car of choice for high-ranking officials, and as war got closer, the company pivoted completely, producing trucks, aircraft engines, and other machinery for the German military. The human cost of this pact was just horrifying. As German workers were sent to the front lines, the company had a labor shortage. Their solution was monstrous. By 1944, just look at this, nearly half of Daimler-Benz's 63,000 employees weren't employees at all. They were forced laborers. And let's be very clear about who these people were. They were prisoners of war, civilians who had been abducted from occupied countries, and even detainees taken directly from concentration camps. They were housed in awful, prison-like camps, watched over by the SS, and were subjected to malnutrition, abuse, and torture. So when the war finally ended in 1945, the company was in total ruins. Its factories were bombed out, its foreign assets were seized for reparations, and its reputation was forever stained. They had to start completely over from scratch.
But the recovery was, well, it was astonishingly fast. After the company's top management went through denazification, they were granted a production permit in 1946. Just 1 year later, passenger cars were rolling off the line again. By 1949, they were profitable, and by 1954, only 9 years after being completely destroyed, Mercedes-Benz was once again a dominant global force.
It's an incredible story of resilience, right? A business phoenix rising from the ashes of its own making. But that comeback can't just erase the past. And it brings us all the way back to where we started, with Karl Benz, the engineer who just wanted to build a horseless carriage, and who, as one historian wrote, had the courage and determination to turn his dream into a reality. Which leaves us with a really difficult question. When you see that three-pointed star on a car today, what does it truly represent? Is it the dream of Karl Benz, the audacity of Bertha, the ruthless ambition of Daimler, or the deep, dark stain of its worst chapter? It's a complicated, uncomfortable mix of all of it, and it forces us to ask, what ultimately is any brand's true legacy? Is it the innovations, the profits, or the history it can never, ever escape?